UFC Fight Night. Holm versus Irene Aldana. We got number 2 versus number 6 in the women's bantamweight division. And if you don't remember, bantamweight is 135 pounds. But before we get into Fight Island number 4 and get into that card, man, I want to recap a little bit of what happened in UFC 253 because it was a very historic night. There was some upsets. There was some great fights. But what's really important here is that I went 2 for 5, man. I ain't do too hot. But AJ went 5 for 5. So, bro, take your victory lap. Tell me what I did not know, man. You got Izzy right. You got Błachowicz right. Royval, Vieira, and Mean Hakeem Dawodu. You got all the picks right. Tell me what I didn't know.
Man, Derick, I got to be honest with you, brother. Sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good. And thankfully this round, I got a couple of them right. I didn't get all the actual decisions correct and all the call-outs right, but I was lucky. I got all the fighters, did some research. But I guess what most impressed me, it wasn't the two championship fights that were the scrappers, man. There was a lot of really good events that whole night, brother. What do you think?
Well, hey, man, listen, I didn't get all the cards right, but some of these are all the fights, right? But some of these fights were so close, man. Anyone could have won and nobody really would have been mad. And one, for example, I think Reyes versus Błachowicz, dog, like that really could have went either way. But I'm really glad that, Jan was able to break homeboy's nose and get him out of there because he was riding the cocky train. But I'm still Reyes, man. I think he could bounce back. But with that being said, man, that makes me prompt the question. Do you think Jan Błachowicz will be able to hold on to this light heavyweight strap, or do you think it's going to start bouncing around?
I really think it's he might hold strong for two, maybe 3 title shots because per his career, he's been an up-and-down fighter, and he's been a journeyman. He's been long deserving of a title, undoubtedly. But there's been people who can beat him, different skill levels, and like we always like to say, man, styles make fights. So it's going to be interesting to see how the 205 division unfolds coming up in the next months. What do you think?
I agree, man. And the thing is, Jan, he's like 38 years old. So while this is one of those kind of like a Michael Bisping, like I'm glad you finally got the strap, I just don't see longevity there. And if so, yeah, just a couple fights probably. But, man, I'm still really excited about that. So this one is one that on air I switched to my pick. But I had actually the perfect pick. Me and you had the same pick, and it was Brandon Royval. So Brandon Royval, he kind of starts Kai Kara-France in a very exciting fight. But his submission skills was a little bit too much for Kai Kara-France. So Royval is ranked at number 7 in the UFC in the rankings right now at featherweight, and it's only his second fight in the UFC. Is he the real deal? What you think, man?
It's a little early to say if homeboy's the real deal, I would say. But, I mean, he's got hands and he's got composure. He with that shot that he took from Kara-France, he literally not only wobbled once, his second leg when he tried to throw a left again also ducked down. Like he was out on his feet, and he was able to come back and compose himself to hit that spinning elbow, make it out the rest, and then come up with, I mean, he showed beautiful jiu-jitsu skills. Per the question of if he's the real deal, man, I definitely think he's something to be worrisome. And he's if I'm not mistaken, 5'8" or 5'9". Man, that's my height. I weigh 170 pounds. There's no way I can imagine getting down to that. He's big for the class. So he might run some fights for sure. I don't know. Time's only going to be able to tell. What do you think?
Well, you're right, man. Time will tell. I don't think we have a large enough sample size. And if he didn't, that's the thing, man. It was one of those kind of like a George Masvidal flying knee. Like if that didn't land, we would be talking about something completely different right now. So with that being said, man, I really like his jiu-jitsu, and I like his submission and his grappling. And he's 145. They're throwing hands all day. But time will tell. Really exciting performance, though. So the last recap question that I got for you, man, is it's your boy Izzy, man. Izzy beat the brakes off of Paulo Costa, and he did it in such a methodical, such a clinical way that people are actually trying to discredit him for this win and act like Paulo Costa didn't bring his best game. But I want to know, man, what did you think about the fight, and do you think Izzy is approaching Anderson Silva territory, or does he need to defend the belt for a couple more years?
Well, I mean, per the fight, you got to give credit to Izzy. He made Paulo Costa look so bad, and like everybody says, Paulo didn't go off, he didn't fire, he didn't clinch up on the fence and let him off. He didn't follow his game plan, yada yada yada, all that stuff. But Izzy put his plan into motion, and I was rewatching this fight, man, because like I said before, I'm a huge Izzy fan, and watching him, like you said, methodically break him down. He didn't have a single bit of movement that wasn't necessary. He didn't expend any amount of energy that he didn't have to. It was beautiful, man. It was superior striking at its finest, and I was just in shock. Can he go to is he at Anderson Silva level? I wouldn't say yet. You know, he hasn't had 100 fights, but he hasn't had 100 UFC fights. It's going to be interesting because it's a scrapping division. You know, 185. There's a lot of killers out there. People might move up. Like I said, T Wood might move up. Time will tell whether he's going to be there. But I think the best part about Izzy, which makes him kind of a class of his own, is that he's willing to take those fights. He's willing to fight the scary opponent, all the hype trains and all that. Time, like I said, this one's another case that time will tell. I don't know. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, that's the thing, man. Him taking the toughest opponents possible, by him doing that and him showing that these are really boring fights, I think that it attests to his greatness, man. I think he's truly a great fighter, and the reason why is it's similar off of what you're saying. Paulo Costa didn't fire because Israel Adesanya was standing in front of him, and he knew any miscalculation could end in exactly what happened, which is him getting the brakes beat off of him. And when you are so good, I mean, come on, he's kind of like a John Jones in a way where his body, his physique is so perfect for the middleweight class. He's longer than everybody. He's taller than everybody. I just think that I personally feel he is entering that Anderson Silva status because three more good championship wins. Who else is there, man? He cleaned out the division. We got to see where else we can go from here. But listen, man, if you a hater, I want to let you know Israel Adesanya standing in front of Paulo Costa is the reason why Paulo Costa didn't fire. If he was able to fire on Yoel Romero, I think he could fire on, anybody in the division. So enough of the recap, though. UFC 253 is over, and what we're excited about is Fight Island number 4. And we got a New Mexico favorite, right? Holm, and she's going to be facing off versus a fighter, Irene Aldana from Jalisco, Mexico. So this is really exciting, excuse me. But let's get into a little bit of sleepers. So without any further ado, Adrian, if you don't mind, once more, man, let's go. Let's get into the sleepers. What you got?
Yeah, man. First up, man, Casey Kenny versus, I'm also going to butcher this name, and I apologize in advance, Halil Alateng. Casey Kenny, he's 29 years old, young dude. This fight's two bantamweight scrappers, and I'm starting to kind of like the lighter weight classes, Derick, strictly because they're exchanging more. There's a lot more pace. There's a lot more combos being thrown together. There's a lot more leather just being flown around, which there may be less KOs, but higher volume leads to more chaos and tends to kind of, a little more action brings to the TV, which you can't always hate. In this one, Casey Kenny, he has big wins over like Luis Smoka, Ray Borg, Brandon Royval, who we were just talking about. And so this dude can scrap. Halil Alateng, he's good, and he's got great power. He's got a great chin. That's the best thing I like about him. Likes to stay active, lots of feints, lots of fakes. He's good under composure. Solid scrapper. We're gonna see really two young, ballsy scrappers just kind of going at each other, throwing chests and throwing some leather. Expect a very technical striking match here with good pressure the whole time, kind of an action-paced fight. And that's why I'm picking it as a sleeper. I don't know. What do you think? What's your next one?
Well, hey, man, the first sleeper that I have, I think could be one of the fights of the night. Their UFC records don't prove it, but I got a featherweight bout once more. We got Josh Culibao is fighting Charles Jourdain. And like I said, the records don't really show. Culibao, his UFC debut was versus Jalen Turner. That's not fair, man. That's just not fair to anybody. I think that's the reason why he got another shot pretty quickly is because he understands the opponent. Jalen is taller than him, longer than him. He's longer than everybody in the division. So Josh Culibao is fighting Charles Jourdain, man. And this dude, I believe his nickname is Air. And he's a flashy striker, man. He's such a flashy striker, but he's 1-2 in the UFC. His last loss came to Andre Fili, and it was a decision loss, which could have gone either way. But regardless of all the stats and all that nonsense, what you need to know is this. Josh Culibao, 5 knockout wins. He does not care who he fights. He's not the most in shape looking dude, and he's one of those he's not Hawaiian, but he's kind of like that Hawaiian mentality of a scrapper. His boxing is a strong suit, but he mixes it up well, throwing calf kicks and kicks to your thighs. He has amazing uses of his feints because, like I said, boxing is a strong suit, and he throws that big Chuck Liddell overhand right over the top, and that's really what he's trying to look for throughout the fight is that right hand. Charles Jourdain, he's a switch fighter who could throw from anywhere, and this is why this fight is going to be exciting, is because he can throw from anywhere. Southpaw, orthodox, it does not matter. His rear kick out of the southpaw is fast and it's precise, and he'll beat your calf, your thigh, and your body up all with that kick. It does not matter. He'll keep it flying all through the fight. Lastly, watch out for his the oblique kicks, kind of those weird little kicks above your knee or straight directly to your knee that kind of throw off your opponent and get you out of your groove. And I think a lot of the time that's what it's for. It's a variation. Instead of using the front kick or a push kick, you just want to get them out of their move so you can, you know what I'm saying? You mess up their timing in a way. The last thing that's really important to know about this is that Charles Jourdain actually does not have a reach advantage. He's got a shorter reach by about 4 inches. So I don't expect this to be anything but a stand-up battle. What do you got next, AJ?
And next up, you mentioned it before, we got a New Mexico favorite. Well, in this sleeper, we got another New Mexico favorite, Derick. And if you're a fan of fighting, you're a fan of Carlos Condit.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be Carlos Condit versus Court McGee, man. This thing's about to be a bash. Carlos Condit, like I said, if you like fighting, you already know that he's a very strong striker. He throws heat. He's fought who's who of legendary fighters. I can't even say enough about this guy. He's one of only a small pool of people on contract in the UFC who can have 5 losses in a row and still be fighting. You know what I'm saying? That right there should tell you that this dude can scrap. He's here to put on a show. Court McGee, a little lesser known, but he's big, he's strong, he's a big pressure fighter, hell of a gas tank, and that boy has grit. He's kind of a herky-jerky striker, so it's going to see it's 2 dudes who are going to stand there. It's going to be a battle of attrition. I'm really excited to see it because I'm a huge Carlos Condit fan. I think it's going to be a high output yet very short fight with tons and tons of big shots flying. Both fighters can handle adversity well and put each other away at any moment, man. So keep an eye out for this one. What you got next?
So first, I just want to say it's very refreshing to hear Carlos Condit on a card in 2020. It's just a refreshing thing. Like you said, 5 losses in a row. I'm hoping for the best, man. But what I have next is another sleeper. It's women's strawweight bout. This is 115 pounds, and I got Loma Luke Boon Mi is fighting Jin Yu Fry. Luke Boon Mi, what you need to know about her is, man, she is a traditional Muay Thai fighter fighting out of Phuket, Thailand, man. She is not playing. Her last fight was a very close decision loss to Angela Hill, and we already know what Angela Hill is capable of. So I think that should speak for itself. Now, what's really interesting about this is she's 1-1 in the UFC. She's 24 years old. She doesn't have a lot of experience. She's 4-2 in her overall MMA record. But her pro debut was in 2008. Now, the person she's fighting has a lot more experience because she's actually a lot older. So Jin Yu Fry is 9-5 in MMA. She's 0-1 in UFC, and she lost her last fight. I'm gonna blank on her name. Hansen is her last name. She lost by like an arm triangle or something like that. And she's a little old, man. She's a little old. She's 35 years old. And listen, I'm not going to say that necessarily means anything in this sport, but you're fighting a young up-and-comer who likes to scrap. The Fry, what she has is she has composure, she has experience, she sits down on her left hand that she throws out of that southpaw stance, and prior to her UFC debut, her last 5 fights were championship title fights. They were in lower promotions, but she got that championship experience. Last thing I really got to say in this is Luke Boon Mi. The reason why this is going to be a sleeper, because Fry, she's not going to explode a lot. She's efficient with her strikes. Luke Boon Mi, her head movement is pretty good, man. But she could work on, instead of moving out in a straight line, circling out, as always, boxing 101. And those knees, so I want to talk to you real quick, AJ. I know you know what this is. Those knees, when you're a traditional Muay Thai practitioner, the elbows and the knees aren't traditional, just straight to the top. There's kind of like a roundabout on it, right? And even with the knee, it's kind of a roundabout. So both of these fighters are Muay Thai fighters, but what I expect is Luke Boon Mi to not even engage the clinch, be on the worst half of the clinch and take over with the elbows, with the knees. It should be a scrap. A lot of cuts, a lot of bloods. Those elbows, man, it's business. So what you got next, man?
Man, those elbows are serious, man. You get one, you will know. Next up, I got Daquan Townsend versus Dusko Tudorovic. Now, Daquan Townsend, he came into the UFC on a tear, all right? Started collecting L's as soon as he got into the UFC. Not a good start, but there's always second chances. There's as long as you're willing to throw the hands, Dana's willing to give you a chance. You know what I'm saying? So of his 21 wins, 12 are by KO. But like I said, he's got his last three fights are all L's of his 3 fights in the UFC. But of his last 2, he's fought them within 21 days apart. So he came in hungry, started eating. It was a little too much food for him, So he then had to take an 8-month break. And now he's coming back, and I'm excited to see the growth that he's had. He's only 34, which in the fight game, he's in his prime. He's there. He's hungry. He's ready to eat some more. Dusko Tudorov, this dude's a killer. I mean, he's 9-0, so we didn't really have much film on this guy, or at least I couldn't get much as far as my research. But he's beat Michel Pereira, who we talked about before, who's savage, bro. And that was, I think, if I remember correctly, a year ago, right before they both kind of came into the UFC. So not too long ago. It wasn't like they were both young in their days. This guy's Tudorovic. He's got a very confident approach. He likes to keep his pressure move forward. But what kind of got me is he keeps his chin up. But like I said, he's 9-0. So we'll see how this 26-year-old comes about it. Townsend, he's been underperforming. So it's going to be an interesting battle of how much this guy has in his tank and how much he's willing to change in order to beat this young up-and-comer who's hungry to not lose his O. But I'll break this one down a little more because it is a main event, and I'll give my picks a little bit later. Derick, what you got next?
Right on, man. So the next one that I got is it's a main card. It's the co-main, actually. And the reason why I wanted to break this down is because I've been watching both of these fighters, just kind of on a whim, watching the UFC, right? And this is 265 heavyweight, Jorgen de Castro versus Carlos Felipe. And I'm really surprised, first and foremost. Let me give you guys a history lesson. It's not that long ago, but Jorgen de Castro's last fight was versus Greg Hardy. And if you were an MMA fan and you're not into other sports, he's a former NFL player. So he's only been fighting legitimately for like 2 years. And Greg Hardy etched out a decision win on Jorgen de Castro, which is very concerning, and that's why I'm surprised Dana White gave him the co-main slot over Durandamy, who is the number 1 contender in her division. So I understand, though. After doing more film study, I understand why they made this happen. Jorgen de Castro, 6-1-0. He has 6 knockout wins, 83% knockout rate. Carlos Felipe, he has 6 of his 8 wins by knockout, 75% knockout rate. Leather is about to be thrown. They have the same reach, 74 inches for Castro and 75 for Felipe. And this is what you need to know, which is why this fight isn't going to last long, and it is going to be a sleeper, and it's why it's a co-main. So Jorgen de Castro, very clearly looking to land the right hand. That's what it is about. But the one differentiation between Carlos Felipe and Jorgen de Castro is that Felipe will keep it a boxing match if you let him. Dude throws wild hooks, wild overhands. I'd say de Castro is a little more technical in his striking, and he mixes in that calf kick, and he will brutalize your thigh. He will brutalize your calf if you leave it open, if you leave it exposed. And one thing Felipe, like I said, if you don't mix it up with him, he'll just sit and keep that legs chilling and just box you up. So de Castro, he has underrated footwork, and he's really looking for that 2-3. So, you know what I mean? Bring that straight right, that left hook over the top, and that's his finishing combo. Felipe, to round this sleeper out, he has really good head movement, man. And I think that and the leg kicks for de Castro, the head movement for Felipe, that is what is going to determine this fight. That is the last sleeper that I got. AJ, you already hit your last sleeper, or do you have any more?
All right, brother, we hit them all.
Cool. So with that being said, man, why don't we head into the main card? So I'll announce the first one. We got your boy that you already did a little bit of a breakdown on, Daquan Townsend versus Dusko. Let me get you with the right pronunciation, dog. I got you. It's Dusko Tudorovic. There we go. Money. Throw a little sprinkle on that joint. Come on, money. All right, man. So that's who you got. Who you got on that one?
So, like I was saying earlier, Townsend's been underperforming, not making a real splash. It's going to be to see how hungry Townsend is versus how much the Siberian hype train doesn't want to lose his O. I think desperation can make an animal out of any man. So I think these guys are going to go in there headhunting. I'm going Townsend, KO, round 1. What you got?
Oh, okay. So from my film study on this, I can say Townsend, he swings big, but he's very composed. Why I like Dusko is because I like to say, man, in the stand-up, he's smooth as butter, but he keeps that chin sky high, and he keeps his hands low. And in his Dana White Contender Series fight, which earned him the UFC contract, didn't look very impressive. The dude he was fighting had 10 knockout wins on his record. Dusko, that was his first fight that went past the first round, so I think he needs to get Townsend is going to be a tough matchup, man. But I'm going to go with the power, man. I'm going Dusko first round knockout. So we on opposite ends on that spectrum, man.
All right. All right.
Next one, man, we got a bantamweight matchup in the 135 pounds. Kyler Phillips versus Cameron Else. Who are you going with?
Kyler Phillips versus Cameron Else, man. Kyler Phillips, very fluid and bouncing. When the lights are on, this kid really likes to put on a show. You know, Cameron Else, I also couldn't find very much film on him. But you know what I like about him, Derick, and you already know I'm going to say it. Trains at Jackson Wink, and he splits his time at the BMF Ranch. So it's going to be a real interesting way to see this guy can put his hands together. I think it's going to be a very tough, evenly matched fight for both Phillips and Else. Both of their skill levels and techniques match up very, very well together. I'm looking for a very, very competitive match going both ways, and call it bias, but I'm going Else by decision.
Hey, man, sometimes you got to go with your gut, right? And if that's what you know, look, you got it right there. If that's what you know, that's what you know. So I respect it, man. I'm actually going to go Kyler Phillips. And the reason why is because, listen, he's a BJJ brown belt. Dude throws a million spinning attacks. He's super exciting to watch. But one thing that I really like about him, man, is he minimizes the damage he takes because he rolls with his punches. Literally rolls with the punches, minimizes that damage. Really, really good boxing IQ. Cameron Else, man, he reminds me of Darren Till, to be honest. He walks down his opponents. He has a lot of confidence, and he'll throw those hands out just kind of playing with you like, all right, I'm going to hit you with the, I forget what it's called, a little wind-up punch, you know what I mean? Hit you with the little okie doke or whatever. So for that reason, I know it's probably contradictory and being a hypocritical. There we go. I know that's probably what my pick is because I went with power in the last matchup with Dusko, but this one I'm going Kyler Phillips, and I think power, if it connects, it's a game. It's a game winner. But if it doesn't, I mean, you already know what happens. So that's what I got for that one. Let's go to the next one. This is the one which is the slight here, man. You got number 1 ranked in the female bantamweight division, Jermaine Durandamy, absolute world beater, versus number 4 ranked Juliana Pena. And this is the third fight of the main card. So first off, let's put a little respect on this matchup right here, man. Who do you got in this fight?
I agree, Derek. This is a hell of a slight to the Iron Lady. How are you going to go 5 rounds with the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, and be third on a non-pay-per-view ESPN Plus card? Come on, Dana.
Yeah, Dana.
Whoever the card setter up was on that. That's rough right there. That's rough. We'll get into this. Jermaine Durandamy, I love the way she strikes, you know. She's great Muay Thai kickboxing. Personally, like my favorite. She's in and out bouncing. She trains with AKA, so you know she's top notch. Showed resilience. Huge heart in her fight in round 1 against Amanda Nunes, taking a beating and surviving and looking great the rest of the fight. Personally, I think with the striking prowess of Durandamy, the question is how much has her defense taken on since that fight against Nunes, which was a year plus ago. How much has her ground game improved, and can Juliana Pena use the blueprint that was already put in place to beat her? Juliana Pena, 31 years old coming up, great knees and super, super strong in the clinch. Good looks, or she's going to look for the takedown the whole time, so she already knows the route. You know what I'm saying? She's heavy on the utilization of the ground game. And personally, I think she's looking to get back on a tear like she was before she ran into Shevchenko. So at the end of the day, I think Durandamy will put on a striking clinic, and Pena will not be able to close the necessary distance in order to be effective and actually clinch up. I'm going Durandamy by decision. What do you think?
Wow, I'm actually a little surprised about that. So first off, before I go into my pick, man, let me rattle off the last five for Durand and me. Amanda Nunes, double champ, right? Decision loss, understandable. Let's write off that one, right? The other four past that: Aspen Ladd, knockout; Raquel Pennington, decision to win; Holly Holm, who's she's headlining the show, decision to win. And then Anna Elmos, excuse me, she's actually really tough, man, and that was a knockout win by body knees. So I'm gonna say this: Juliana Pena, listen, number 4 ranked, I respect it. She's really tall. She has a lot of reach for that particular division, and generally speaking, or actually, she's not the tallest. She's not the tallest. I take that back. The point is, man, I'm not impressed with what I see from Juliana Pena. She'll be in your face, like you said. The knees are nice. I think that what her name of the game is striking, more or less, and you're going to try to strike with a striker. I just don't see it playing out well. I don't see anybody right now. Like, I really legitimately look at Jermaine Durandamy as like a mini Cyborg, and you know what the deal is with Cyborg, man. It's just you have to be a different tier to truly give her a tough fight, like Amanda Nunes, right? So I'm going Jermaine Durandamy, knockout round 1. Round 2 maybe might push it, but when I watched her fight versus Aspen Ladd, very, very tough fighter, not the toughest, very, very tough though. She walked right through her. It was nothing. That was like 2 seconds. Not walked right through her. When you watch the Anna Elmos fight and you just watch her putting it on her, this is a girl who wants to be in each other's face. She's just putting it on her. I don't see anybody who has good enough striking or grappling to truly just neutralize Durandamy's offense. So with that being said, like I said, I'm going to go round 1, maybe round 2, knockout round 1, Durandamy, and that takes us into the co-main and the main. So I already broke it down earlier. Jorgen de Castro versus Carlos Felipe. We got big leather, some big boys throwing. Who you got, AJ?
Like you said earlier, Derick, Jorgen de Castro, kind of a little short for the division, but homeboy has a heavy right hand. He likes, when I was watching him, he likes to keep a lot of his weight on the front leg, change levels, close the space. What surprised me most, though, is, like you said it, his kicks are on point. Carlos Felipe, great head movement. Again, short for the division, so it's not going to be really a long, lanky striking battle like we're going to see with a lot of the other fights. Carlos Felipe, he's a bit quick. When I was watching him, to roll under every single punch, leaving that head down for an uppercut. Let's see if De Castro can take advantage of it, because if I spot it, I'm an amateur. I'm sure somebody else has seen it, and they're going to look to take advantage of it. I think this fight's going to be fireworks from the jump. Both big boys just swinging for the fences, pushing the pace, looking to make that extra money on that win bonus. Ultimately, leading to Felipe getting the KO win, round 1.
Well, listen, man, I respect your pick, because this is a toss-up for me. The game winner, in my opinion, is the leg kicks by De Castro, but this is one thing that's an intangible, and if you don't watch this man fight, you don't understand. But in his last fight, Carlos Felipe, he didn't sit down in between rounds. He didn't use the stool, and I think that is the thing. And with the heavyweights, man, listen, if you got that cardio and that power could translate into that third round, it's going to be a long, long night for De Castro. But even with that said, I have to go to De Castro, third round KO, because of the leg kicks, man. I think that's just going to take his juice and his mobility away from Carlos Felipe. So that's what I'm going with that one. And let's get into the main card, man. Holly Holm, the preacher's daughter, is fighting Irene Aldana. Very tough, very tall, long reach. I'll let you go first. What you got on this one? Who do you think?
Thank you. Man, Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana. I'm actually very, very, very excited for this fight. I know back a couple months ago, me and you were talking on a personal level, and I said I don't really like watching women fight, with just the sport and blah, 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 all that stuff. I take it 100% back for this fight, because it's about to be a scrap.
Oh, yeah.
These girls, Holly Holm, legend of the game, legend in the streets of Albuquerque, the preacher's daughter. She can never be counted out, Everybody knows about the Ronda Rousey head kick KO, but Holly Holm, she's been doing that since the early 2000s, okay? With arguably the best camp in the nation. I don't even say it. She can sharpen her natural skills and prepare a masterful game plan, Derick. Extremely well-rounded, years of experience. She's gonna be able to dictate will she be able to dictate the pace and control the octagon against the really scrappy Aldana. And like I said, Irene Aldana, very, very scrappy, very fast, very tall and lanky for the division. What I like about her is she likes to get into those firefights. She's got that Mexican heart. She's likes to battle, and she likes to trade shots, put on a show. It's going to be fun. In her last fight, she showed amazing composure and really high fight IQ with being able to handle the pressure that Vieira was putting on and see what was coming and throw that well-executed step-in left hook. She timed it so perfectly to see Vieira dropping her right hand. It was masterful. She fights with the fire and tenacity, like I said. I think this fight, it's going to start off a little slow. It's a 5-rounder. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's Irene Aldana's first 5-rounder. So they're going to start off a little slow, feel each other out. Very technical striking battle, but eventually leading to the dog fight. Because I think Irene Aldana going to put a little too much pressure, get the TKO finish on the living legend. It hurts to say it. Irene Aldana TKO round 4, brother. I know you didn't expect it.
I didn't expect that. And the reason why I didn't expect that is because not just from a bias perspective, because I know New Mexico, enough said, not because of that perspective, but legitimately because Holly Holm, man, I think I don't know what the odds are on this fight, but I think she's being counted as an underdog, and I'm not really sure. Like, not a big underdog, and I'm talking about real fight fans. It's kind of saying, like, Aldana might pull this one off, like yourself, right? So hear me out. 13-5-0, Holly Holm, 12-5-0, Irene Aldana. Now, on paper, it kind of seems like they're right there head to head, but guess what? In her last 5, Holly Holm has 2 championship fights in her last 5. Last 5, Raquel Pennington, win decision. Amanda Nunes, loss, knockout for the champ. Okay, we don't need to talk about that. Megan Anderson, decision win, who I think Megan Anderson is about to get a title shot. Chris Cyborg, loss again. Come on, Cyborg, we're not counting that one. And then Betch Correia, which I guess that name doesn't carry as much value these days. But, I mean, come on, man. It's just different caliber of opponents. Irene Aldana, last 5. Ketlin Vieira, which I do want to talk about that fight. Vanessa, that's a win, knockout, left hook. Vanessa Mello, win decision. Raquel Pennington, loss. Interesting. Holly Holm beat her. Betch Correia, with a sub, belly down armbar. Apologies over here reading, man. And then, listen, this is what's important. Irene Aldana has a 50% knockout rate on paper, right? All you stat nerds might be looking at that and say, hey, she has a real chance. But guess what? In the UFC, she has 1 knockout in 8 UFC bouts. So that doesn't really count, right? These are the things that we need to know. Ketlin Vieira, when she fought Irene Aldana, what was she doing, AJ? Vieira was walking her down. Vieira was mad because she was getting tagged. She was throwing wild. No head movement, right? You're seeing somebody who is taking a Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa approach where they just, going to bully their opponent. But guess what Holly Holm doesn't do? Exactly that. She won't do that. She's going to circle around you. She's going to beat up your legs. At one point, she was considered to be what? One of the greatest women boxers of all time, right? Come on, bro. Like, that's why for me, I look at this matchup and I say, like, for this to be truly considered close, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll eat my words. But I think Holly Holm is going to 5-round decision her ass up, man. And apologies for the language, you dig? But I'm just saying, Irene Aldana is going to be in a different class. When she fought Ketlin Vieira, she was a little bit taller. She had more reach, man, right? But guess what? Holly Holm, 5'8", Irene Aldana, 5'9". Holly Holm, 69-inch reach. Irene Aldana, 68.5-inch reach. It's levels to this, and when you're talking about the preacher's daughter, when you're talking about Holly Holm, bro, who beat Ronda Rousey, who beat these legends, come on. 5-round decision clinic. That's what I have. And I will eat my words if I'm wrong, man, but I got to be diligent about this because just like Jermaine Durand to me, we're putting disrespect all on her name right there. And I don't think that it's fair because you lose to Amanda Nunes. That's like I said, Josh Kulabau, UFC debut, Jalen Turner. Like, you can't just take that and just be like, nah, you're trash because you lost to one of the best fighters in the UFC, where you have the best fighters in the world. So I'll step off of my soapbox and my rant, dog, but I had to get that off. I had to show up for your girl, Holly Holm, show New Mexico some love, man. So, listen, that is all of our main card picks. We gave you some sleepers. We do it every week, man. I think this card is really going to, listen, it's not the most exciting card. I'll be honest with you. But we gave you the fights that you need to look out for, and it's going to be on ESPN Plus, man. So a lot of people going to have access to this. UFC, Fight Island, number 4. AJ, you got any words to close us out?
Man, all I got to say, Derick, is I hope I do eat my words and the preacher's daughter pulls it out because, I'm looking for that, man. But other than that, brother, it's good seeing you again. It's good seeing everybody else. And I'll be here soon, brother. See you on Saturday.
Yeah, right on, man. Likewise. And listen, let us know who you rocking with. Go on Verdict. Really, Verdict. I like to see it because that's a larger representation of what people are truly feeling about these fights. Me and AJ, we on there every weekend putting in our picks. And what makes it really difficult, right? It's easy just to say, do a money line. So-and-so wins. But let's see how close we can get, because AJ, you went 5 for 5 for your picks, but you didn't quite go 5 for 5 on all the methodology of the win. So let's nitpick and get the fine detail in there so we can show that we got the breakdown. We're watching the film. We're studying the tape, all that. We'll see you guys on the next one. Until next time. Peace.